Hey guys, it's Lee Taylor. That's the 2020 Megane RS Trophy, and this is a Right Lane review. If you're a fan of the hot hatch segment, the name Renault Sport should flash a bit of yellow in the mind's eye. And that reminds me of a statement I once made. Renault does two things really well. One is diesel runabouts, and the other is fiery hot hatches. And that statement still very much stands. So with me today is a very bright idea that's a little bit out of place. You see, this is the only passenger car that's not an SUV that Renault offers here in Australia, and it's not really designed for the urban environment. In fact, its natural territory is more of a mountain road or somewhere like the Albert Park Circuit. But is it the best hatchback? Well, it's one of the most engaging hatchbacks I've driven, and it's one of the most engaging cars under $65,000. Is it the best hot hatch? That's a bit debatable. There's some absolute weapons on the market, the i30N, the Honda Civic Type R, and if you want pedigree, the GTI is up there, but Renault's got just as much pedigree, and when you drive this car, you can really feel its ancestors. I owned an RS265 Trophy and the Clio 172. They were probably two of my favorite cars I've ever had, so I was very skeptical, but not so much anymore. With the Trophy, they've now gotten rid of the 2-liter engine that was quite legendary amongst the Renault Sports, and they've replaced it with a 1.8-liter engine that makes about 220 kilowatts, I think it's 221, and 420 newton meters of torque. And that's all through a brand new EDC unit, a 6-speed dual clutch that Renault has decided to add to the Megane range. Now, purists, myself included, are screaming at the top of our lungs because we love the 6-speed model so much, but you can still get a 6-speed in your Trophy or in your normal RS. But for those people who want to have a little bit more drivability, there is the dual clutch option. Around town with the Renault, it's actually not too bad. You have your 5 driving modes, so comfort, neutral, sport, race, and personal, where you can reconfigure almost everything. In comfort and neutral modes, it does pretty well. It feels like a pretty normal hatchback. It's easy to maneuver. Its turning circle is so much better than the old car. You do have this new all-wheel steer system in the RS known as 4Control. So at lower speeds, I think it's under 100 kilometers an hour, the back wheels will turn in opposite direction of the front wheels to aid agility. And above 100 kilometers an hour, the rear wheels will turn in the same direction as the front wheels to aid stability. And in different modes, this reacts different ways. So in comfort and neutral mode, it's a bit more sensitive at low speed, so it makes the car a lot more agile to park. You can get around roundabouts really easily. One of my biggest gripes with the old RS265 was the fact that it had the turning circle of a small bus. This does not. This actually is quite good. You can get in and out of parking spaces really easily, and it's got quite a tight turning circle, mostly thanks to that rear wheel steering. When you get out to the back road, you throw it into sport or race, the rear wheel steering helps you get in the corners a lot faster, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. The EDC gearbox does well for the most part around town. It can be a bit jerky from takeoff, but it's also dealing with 420 newton meters of torque. It's not nearly as smooth as the DSG gearboxes in the Volkswagens, but the EDC, it does okay. I mean, I still prefer the 6-speed option, but for those of you who sit in a commute all day long and want the adaptive cruise control, the EDC is kind of where it's at. Around town is where this car is going to live its day-to-day life, but what this car is really designed for is getting out on the open road. When you select Sport, the car becomes a little bit different beast. So you click it over, and instantly the car feels a little bit more alive. There's a bit more vibration through the chassis. You get the pops and bangs in the exhaust. The gearbox gets a bit sharper. I like to keep it in manual mode at this point because I want a little bit more control. And the car starts to feel like a Renault Sport is supposed to feel. This car is super tactile. We took it out to the mountains over the week, and it absolutely blew my mind. There are some absolute weapons out there. The Type R is probably much better on track. The i30N is nothing to shake a stick at either, but this car would hang with them. It's so agile. People have complained about this 4Control steering system when you actually thrash it, about it making the car feel like it's oversteery. And for me, I prefer a front-wheel drive that's a bit more oversteery. I want the back to play a bit, and so it didn't really bother me. It did catch me off guard though, because you turn in and the car darts in like a Renault Sport does, and then all of a sudden the back end comes with you, and you're kind of like, huh. That's happening. It's a absolute jewel of a machine though in the back roads. I mean, The hydraulic bump starts really do help the car feel planted. It can get out of hand if you get a nice jolt mid-corner, but that's anything with a super stiff chassis. And the gearbox really responds really well. Just like now, I'm in third gear. almost instantaneous gear shift, the perk of a dual clutch transmission. A 6-speed, yeah, it might be more engaging up in the back roads, but I didn't miss it that much, to be perfectly honest. I just didn't. It's so dynamically here. The front end's got a ridiculous amount of grip. The fork control really helps out in the corners, getting you in and out of the corners. It's got a torsion limited slip front differential in all trophy models and anything with a cup chassis really in the Renault Sport range. And it feels so good. You can feel it grabbing as it comes out of a corner. The response from the engine is great in the mid-range. It really comes alive above 3,000 RPMs and starts singing all the way up. And the tone changes. So you're going along perfectly fine, all of a sudden it just like starts screeching. It really feels like a race car. With the dual clutch unit, it helps a lot. So the dual clutch actually gives you quite a bit of control at your fingertips, and it's one less thing to think about when you're running up the mountain or if you're on a track day. I personally would probably still order this car in a 6-speed, though if I was commuting every single day in traffic, now that this has adaptive cruise control, I would probably opt for the EDC because I'm not missing out on much, to be honest. But dynamically, it's hard to fault. I mean, it makes the right noises, and it goes like a bat out of hell. I absolutely love this color. It's called Liquid Yellow. It's a Renault Sport F1 Legacy color, and it looks so good in the flesh. I mean, it looks good on paper too, but I was always a bit hesitant with the yellows because you never really know. I mean, some cars you see in yellow, it's like, I don't really want to drive a banana. And you get in this car, every single time I walk away from it in the parking lot, I have to look back. Sign of a good car, and it makes those noises. I mean, that's actually kind of a cool thing about having this many modes on the RS, is that you can get the car to be loud and obnoxious and joyful and sassy in the corners all you want to, but I'm in manual. But as soon as you want the car to calm down and be quiet, you can put it in neutral and comfort mode, flip it into auto, and it becomes a fairly subdued hot hatch. When I picked this car up, I was super skeptical. I didn't know if it was going to be like my old Trophy, super tactile in the hand and everything that I wanted. And my old Trophy made me laugh when I drove it, made me giggle when I pitched it in a corner. So to get here and drive this car, a 2020 Renault Sport, in the world of computers, and cars are getting more and more technologically advanced, they're piping in sound from the stereo and the outside sounds like nothing. And to get in, and within the first 5 minutes, this car had me smiling and giggling, and that to me is a sign of a great car. So how's the interior intake on the RS Trophy? Pretty good. From the driver's seat, you sit nice and low in the car with the aluminum pedals right in front of you. The steering wheel feels great in the hand. It's leather wrapped, but you also get some Alcantara feels on the top and bottom, so it's got a good grip. The paddle shifters are attached to the steering column instead of the wheel, and they're in a good spot. I do wish they were a little bit longer. Typical Renault-isms, you have your audio controls in the back of the wheel, so if you do go upshift in the middle of a mountain road, sometimes you turn the radio on or change to Lana Del Rey, not my favorite, and then you have the cruise control here on the center console. For infotainment, you get R-Link, which is a pretty good system. It's laggy sometimes, but it's all right. But you do get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto on these cars, so I end up using that most of the time anyway. On this R-Link, you do get the RS monitor, which is a really cool set of screens when you're in sport or race mode that actually tells you what the car is doing. Some really cool information, and you can watch the fork control all while steering work. You do get heated seats as well as a Bose sound system, which sounds really, really, really good, and some decent storage around. Build quality is okay. It's not great for, a high $50,000 hatchback, but it's doable when you consider the drivetrain involved. My favorite thing about the interior is actually the multi-sense system, which gives you 5 different modes for the Megane: comfort, neutral, sport, race, and personal. And it also changes the ambient lighting every single time you change modes, which looks really cool. There is one problem though. This cup holder is absolutely useless. So how's life in the back of the 4-door RS Trophy? Well, it's a little bit tight, but it's manageable. The seat in front of me, as usual, is in my normal driving position. My knees are in the back, but I have a little bit of an alcove, and there's some pockets back here too. Plenty of headroom, thanks to the fact that there's no sunroof. You do get the nice Alcantara effect on everything, and some vents to keep yourself cool. A throw-down armrest for drinks and your arms. You get the nice stitching on pretty much all the seats as well, and the ambient lighting extends to the back as well. You do also have a oh shit handle just in case. So what about the very back of the trophy? Well, before we open the boot, just want to talk about this. This is a marked improvement over the last generation Megane. You got a nice big aperture, it's a good looking rear end, the diffuser that works, the normal cylinder exhaust, and a little like, nipple?
You told me it was a nubbin.
Here above the handle where you would actually open the boot. When you do open the boot, it's a massive door, so you get lots of space back here. The seats do fold down, but unfortunately there isn't any storage underneath the load floor because that's where the heat shield for the exhaust is and the amp for the Bose stereo. So what's the tops, bottoms, and the final verdict on the Megane RS Trophy? Well, on the bottom are a couple things that are kind of hit or miss. So it's stiff AF, like it's so harsh around town, but once you get going, it kind of smooths out. But if you're not into the stiff thing, then probably not for you. Anyway, the DCT gearbox can be a little bit finicky around town, but again, once you're on the move, it smooths itself out. The interior quality is just okay for a $60,000 car, on par with the i30N and the Type R, but it could be better. And it's quite wide, so these beautiful sexual looking haunches and hips make the car look amazing, but it makes it a little bit difficult to get through the Macros drive-thru. On top, there's so much to like. It's easily one of the most engaging cars under $65,000, and it drives fantastically, so tactile in the hands. The four-wheel steering system means it's super agile at any speed. Doesn't matter if you're carving up a mountain road or trying to park around town. The engine's a jewel. It really pulls in the mid-range on up the red line, and it just looks fantastic, particularly in this liquid yellow. I mean, oh, so good. So what's my final verdict on the RS Trophy? Renault has been able to keep the Renault Sport name alive here in Australia, and in this Megane RS Trophy model, it feels just like a Renault Sport hot hatch should. Look, if you want a magic carpet ride, go buy a Volkswagen GTI, but if you want to run around with your hair on fire, making all the right noises and really enjoying what you drive, buy one of these. I absolutely love this car. In fact, I'm probably going to order one in bright F off yellow. He waved back, yes.